I've been accused many times of being a racist by people who didn't even know me. You know, my high school was 99.999% white. Silicon Valley is largely the same way. It wasn't until we began to see a big influx of people from India with their dark skin that we began to see a lot more dark skin in Silicon Valley.
I used to teach dance, and I had a student that really loved me, and she was always like wanted to be by my side. And one day her mom came up to me and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I love you. You do so well with my daughter." She's like, she always says you're her favorite chocolate teacher. Maybe she hasn't really been exposed to Black people, so maybe that's like her way of saying chocolate. But for her mom to say it too, it was kind of interesting and kind of weird.
I work at a grocery store. There's another lady there who's older than me. She's a cashier also. She's Latina, Hispanic heritage. This happened right after Trump got elected. She was going through her line and she had like leaned over. I couldn't hear her, I asked her later. But I guess the lady, she was Caucasian, she said, "I'm going to build a wall," and basically telling the lady like she shouldn't like be here. I saw her come through my line, or in line for me to check her out. And then she saw it was me, so she went to like a different line where it was a Caucasian cashier. So she avoids me, and then the other lady she approached. Yeah, I didn't want to let it affect me too much. It just was like perplexing me how people still like think like that.
I had a coworker who was Mexican, and I guess a white male came in. It was we worked in a company that sold beer, spirits, wine, you know, and snacks and stuff. And I guess this individual was in a hurry and started ordering my coworker, you know, arriba, 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 like that, you know, just like, you know, using those the Spanish words for hurry up. Yet he doesn't speak Spanish, and you can tell by his accent.
I like first and foremost to say that I am an American. I'm third generation of ethnic. My ethnicity is Mexican American, but yet in the eyes of a Caucasian, I'm not American. They just see me as Mexican. So now when I go to a Mexican restaurant and they start asking me questions in Spanish, I pick up about 50% of it because I've heard it at home, like when my grandparents are around and they speak it. But I cannot have a full conversation. So they look down upon me and they say, "I'm not Mexican." That's my ethnicity. But for them to look down on me, which makes no sense because I had no control of where the borderline starts and ends. It just so happened that I was born on this side of the border and they were born on that side of the border. So it's like they're taking their frustrations out on me.
The biggest thing I remember is when I was younger and my dad was going to change me and my sister in the bathroom. This white guy thought that my dad was stealing us because we were more light-skinned when we were a baby, and my dad is Black. So they just assumed that we weren't his, and they started to call the police on him, and he was like, "No, these are my kids. These are my children. What would I be doing without them?" And the guy wouldn't believe my dad, and then my mom and my grandpa, my mom's dad, were like, "What's taking them so long?" So they went back there. The police was there at that point, and they were like, "Oh no, this is my husband, and like these are his kids." And then the police and that other guy finally believed my dad because white people were confirming it.
When I joined the dance team, I kind of saw my teammates try to make fun of my accent. At first I thought like, okay, you know what, it's funny, they're just mocking me. But it got to an extent that whatever I'd say, they'd like mock me right the next second, and it started getting to me a lot. It just made me feel like I'm not accepted in my own community.
They don't want a lot of immigrant people going to their country, like we stealing their jobs.
One of these teachers who were sent to us to educate us, this teacher actually said we could always tell, even if we closed our eyes, if there was a Black person in the room because they would smell different.
People, like the boys, would call me like a white whore, and like they would always say like white before they like said an insult.
At my job, I've been paid more because I'm white. I don't know how to react to it. It's kind of been the norm for me in my life, but since I've grew out and I have like a lot of diverse friends now, it's coming more and more aware to me that this isn't how I should be treated.
I will treat others the way I want to be treated. What I see and I feel that is wrong or that is making others and as well as me uncomfortable, I should talk about it.
I do think that there is an element of white privilege in society, but I would also argue that you can't try to balance out the equation by focusing negative social anything to white people.
You know, no one ever believes me this, but my mother's 100% Mexican. I mean, I'm half Mexican, but everyone laughs when I say that because my skin's so fair. And I remember being, even from like a young age in like third grade and so on, you start to be exposed to like the idea of, you know, systematic racism and our country's history of it. And my experience of it with it began at that age where I realized like the color of my skin sends that message to folks.
Probably the most sort of emotionally impactful or devastating event occurred while I was a faculty member in Texas. I was stopped by a police officer. One officer had one approach. He was standing there talking to me, gun in his holster, and we were just talking back and forth, and there was no tension. But when the second officer arrived on the scene, got out of the car, drew his gun, started searching the car, and then when I said, "Why are you searching my car?" That's when he rushed me and tackled me. And the other officer closed in to presumably help. I don't know what the intent was, but he dropped his gun in the process. And the black officer, if he didn't say, "That's my gun," I think I would have been shot.
Definitely there is this white privilege. I've noticed many scenarios where I've gotten very lucky, and it's strictly because I grew up in a good neighborhood. I have quality parents. I live in a neighborhood where there's no crime. So there have been many scenarios where I have escaped, you know, potential sentencing time, and it's because of my color. Well, I've had situations where I've gotten pulled over by a cop and I've had marijuana on me, pot, and a good amount too. And what had happened was, I mean, this is enough to get you handcuffed, thrown in the back of a cop car, and get you some time. And I mean, honestly, the cop didn't even take it. He called my mom and he told her to come pick me up with everything and let me go. I didn't even get a ticket, didn't even get questions asked. I didn't even know the cop, but I did get away. It's not something that I'm happy about, but it is something that occurred. And it comes at that white privilege that I have, I guess.
Oftentimes people, you know, they speak before they think, and they'll let the wrong thing out. And as soon as something's documented and put out there, everyone's gonna bash on it. But the thing with it is that's why I say you have to know what you're talking about before you dive into something, because one wrong statement or false accusation can jolster your reputation. The only one good thing that came out of Trump being elected is we see how many people are still bigots in this country. So at least the true colors are being shown of America, and we know where certain people stand and the people that we can follow and we can bond with, you know, to help kind of overcome these adversities that we're facing right now. But that's the biggest thing, is people are just afraid, you know, of backlash, and they don't want to say the wrong thing, because racism is a very sensitive topic.
Racism is an unavoidable situation in a diverse society, but it did get better over time if we spoke up. I think for every situation, we need someone to speak up for everyone to like listen to, and they actually like realize what's the situation in a society. So now there's like social media stuff for the sexual harassment and stuff. So if someone speak up, people will know, and it will eventually like change in a better way.
Things being swept under the rug and kind of collecting up and building up and exploding if you don't talk about it. So I feel like instead of like keeping it under the radar, it's just gonna get worse. You're just not helping the problem, and just simply talking about it, you know, as a human being with other people without any, you know, physical altercations, just sitting down and talking. I feel it's important.
Listen to each other, asking questions, and talk to that in the respectively way. Because sometimes when you talk about racism for someone, they probably will obligate or they're afraid. But if we talk that in professional way, just like in your class, I think it's really easy to open your mind, open your heart.
I remember being in class, English class actually, and it's filled with the rowdy football jocks. And I remember the one joke was, how do Asians, you know, how do their parents name their kids? And like, I was just waiting. I was like, oh, you just throw down a fork down the stairs and whatever sound it makes. Yeah, and I remember not having the courage to be offended. I remember sitting at the very back and someone caught me looking kind of like shocked, and she's like, why are you offended? She's like, it's not like you're like one of those Asians. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, because I'm not Chinese? She's like, no, because like, you're a cool Asian.
I'm hoping that students on our campus and around our area and around the country, if not the world, see how we, the faculty, staff, and leaders in the community, talk about racism as a learning experience, not a fearful experience. It's about time. We need to talk about race.